Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today we are kicking off the final month of Series 13 here on the ranked ladder for Road to Ranked. Turns out we're going to be switching back to the Series 12 rule set in November before Scarlet and Violet come out, and so we only have a couple of weeks left of this crazy, chaotic format. It's really the most chaotic I've ever played in, but definitely excited to continue featuring teams and playing games on Road to Ranked here. And so to kick off the brand new ranked season, I wanted to feature a team built by one of my favorite team builders in Sword and Shield, China Sapphire, who won the Hong Kong National Championships a couple of months ago, and it's a team centered around Dialga, which we actually haven't really used at all in Series 13, but I think is very, very underrated in this format given the amount of sheer power. So as always, I'll do a quick breakdown of the team, but if you want to just skip to the battles, check out the timestamps in the description below. And thank you so much as always for watching. If you enjoy, please share your support by leaving a like. I'd really appreciate it. And question of the day, I want to know what you just generally think about Series 13 after a month. For me, it's fun. I would never really want to play this in an official tournament setting, and I do wish that the mythical Pokemon were just a little bit better or more used outside of like Magearna. Like one of my goals is to try to feature a couple more mythical Pokemon before the season ends. So yeah, I'd give it somewhere out of like a 5 or 6 out of 10. So let me know your ratings and thoughts down in the description below, and let's talk about this team. So this team centers around Dialga as one of its primary attackers. Now, Dialga is a really strong attacker when Dynamax, but it can be a lot weaker when Dynamax is over. And so a lot of the times when using this team, the first question I ask myself is, one, should I max Dialga? And two, if so, how do I put it in a position where it can just completely sweep my opponent in my 3 turns of Dynamax? As you'll notice, this Dialga does not have a move that allows it to max guard. So if you're committing Dynamax to it, you really have to feel comfortable that you're going to be able to get 3 max moves off and get a lot of damage off onto your opponent's side. The upside of Dialga is that it's a fairly bulky Pokemon as is, and you can further increase your defenses via Max Quake and Max Steel Spike. And so there's very minimal speed investment on this Dialga because it has Tailwind support from Whimsicott. And so with just 20 speed EVs here, you outspeed everything under Tailwind other than Choice Scarf Pokemon and like Regieleki. And, as long as they don't have speed control on their side. And so this is where like the Whimsicott really comes in handy. You have for Tailwind support here, and it pairs really nicely with Dialga. Whimsicott Dialga is a very effective lead with this team. The thing about Whimsicott here is that it has both Protect and Charm. Protect is really nice since Fake Out feels like it's picking up on Grimmsnarls, which is, fairly common in the format. And so this allows you to just protect, stall out a turn, and then Tailwind the subsequent turn. And then Charm is really nice for all the physical attackers that you're going to run into the format, especially opposing Zacian as well as Groudon. And so Whimsicott Dialga, very, very strong combination here. Since Dialga likes to max so frequently, Zacian is a natural third option to complement that duo. And so this is pretty, standard for Zacian. It's a little bit bulkier here, admin with 100 speed EVs. And instead of a fighting type attack or something like Wild Charge, you have Quick Attack just to allow you to really snipe things off and finish things off before they can really get another attack off. And so, yeah, Whimsicott Dialga Zacian is one of the main cores that I played with. And then you can fill out the fourth with like Kyogre, Groudon, and Zacian in those scenarios. But Kyogre, Groudon, Zacian are all really good Dynamax options on this team as well, so don't discount them. Yes, this team does look like very much like a Dialga focused team, and in my experience playing with it, like Dialga is super good with it. But one of the beautiful things about this team is the flexibility, where you have 4 really strong max options, and all of these are fairly powerful outside of Dynamax as well. So you've got a modest max speed Kyogre here with Sea Incense, critically as Thunder here as well. This is a pretty standard Kyogre set these days, but no Choice Scarf, and you do see Choice Scarf on a lot of Kyogres nowadays, but on this team it's a little bit more flexible, so you can do a little bit more damage thanks to Sea Instance, and also flex it as a Dynamax option a little bit better. And then you've got a White Herb Groudon here. This just helps against all the max Wormwinds and the potential Intimidates that you might run into in the format. Fire Punch and Stone Edge here for really reliable damage output. Stone Edge maybe not so reliable in terms of accuracy, but the damage can be super good. And then the final Pokemon here is Physical Yveltal, which is really nice in dealing with so many of those Assault Vest Kyogres that you might run into. Against those teams, for example, Dialga's not super strong, so Yveltal can go for physical max darknesses, and then you can have Groudon to change the weather as well. And then, yeah, like Zacian would play rough or Behemoth Blade against Kyogre as well. And so, yeah, ultimately, a lot of flexibility here. Dialga is the main Pokemon I wanted to feature with this team, but you've got Max Kyogre, Groudon, and Yveltal all as options as well. And ultimately, this is just, very similar to a lot of the Tailwind Whimsicott teams that we featured, but a couple of small things that really, I think, give it a nice edge, which are the Protect and Charm on Whimsicott, as well as Dialga taking up a spot on this team. And I think Dialga in general is just kind of slept on in Series 13. So that's it for the breakdown. Let's get into the battles. All right, we're up against Ash. What do they have? Yveltal, Kyogre, Zacian, Regieleki, Whimsicott, Incineroar. So I feel like Dialga is really strong in matchups like this, right? Because we've got super effective attacks across the board. So I definitely want to play around Dialga. I think the main thing is that they probably will get a pretty significant speed advantage because they have Whimsicott. They have yeah, I have my Whimsicott, but they can just like counter it with their own Tailwind. But like we do have Charm, right? And like Dialga is actually fairly difficult for them to KO. So Whimsicott, Dialga lead, Zacian in the back for sure. And then the last one is really a toss-up between Kyogre, Groudon, or Yveltal. Groudon's actually pretty interesting to me here. I don't know. If I were them, I wouldn't play towards Regieleki because I have Groudon and Dialga. Could still make Groudon worth bringing, though. Like, we have Stone Edge, right? Which is fairly valuable into Yveltal if it doesn't Dynamax. I think both Groudon and Kyogre are acceptable here. What do I want to bring between Groudon and Kyogre? I guess, like, Yveltal's also, like, worth considering, but it's physical. And I don't plan on Dynamaxing it here in this game, and it's super weak to Zacian, and I want a better Zacian answer. So, it's between Kyogre and Groudon. I think here I'm going to go with the Kyogre ultimately. Mainly because what like weighed into my decision making here is that Groudon in the late game has to rely on Precipice Blades often and Stone Edge, whereas Kyogre can rely on Water Spout if put in the right position, and I don't really want to risk missing here. There are a lot of other factors to consider as well, but I think you could actually make a decent argument for both Kyogre and Groudon here. So they're going to go with Whimsicott and Yveltal. Okay. What do I want to do on turn 1 here? It could be Fake Tears Whimsicott. I'm actually a little bit worried about that. And it also could be Trick Room on the Whimsicott on their end. Even if they are not Assault Vest, Moonblast plus Max Rock falls on a guaranteed KO onto Yveltal. Could be Snarl Yveltal here as well, right? But then that means they would have to Dynamax Kyogre. I do want to kind of respect Snarl, though, truthfully. Okay, I think I'm actually going to Moonblast plus Flash Cannon into Whimsicott on turn 1 of this game, and then stagger my Tailwind by a turn. They Dynamax Yveltal. Okay, that's fine. What's interesting here, though, is that maybe their Whimsicott doesn't click Tailwind. Like, Fake Tears Max Darkness into Dialga here is definitely a possibility, and that's scary. That'd be very scary, actually. Because I would just lose Dialga, and I would just get a Moonblast off into their Whimsicott. And that's not a good trade at all. Oh, they actually go for Taunt, though. Okay, I'll take that. Taunt makes sense there, because essentially, like, if I am trying to Tailwind there, and you win the speed tie, I'm in really bad shape. In the grand scheme of things, actually, I don't mind this turn, because it means they don't get Tailwind up, which is pretty critical. Unless Max Darkness one-shots Dialga here, which I guess could be the case. Yeah, that did a lot. It's part of the reason why I wasn't super comfortable Dynamaxing Dialga here. Like, I'm worried about Fake Tears. Like, Dialga is just slower than the Yveltal here. No Life Orb from the Yveltal, so that's good to confirm. So the awkward thing is, I will not be able to Tailwind right now. But the thing is, I didn't want to Dynamax Dialga because, like, I don't have the speed advantage here. But now, if I switch Whimsicott out and then back in, I will be able to get Tailwind up in this game, which is pretty cool. However, they can just bring out, like, yeah, something like Kyogre and then just Max Airstream plus Water Spout right now, which is obviously really scary. How do I even get around Airstream plus Water Spout here? I don't feel like I have a great answer, honestly. That Taunt puts me in a really awkward spot. Huh. One approach is to sacrifice both Pokemon here and just lose the speed war. And then play towards late game Dynamax Kyogre. I actually don't hate that option right now. Kyogre moves before Yveltal. Okay, it's good to know. Yeah, I mean, if I switch Whimsicott out into Kyogre there, the thing is that's my Dynamax option just taking way too much damage. If I switch into Zacian, Zacian faints. And then I feel like I don't have enough offense for the late game. But this actually I think is okay, because I get the Moonblast onto the Kyogre. That's already 2 turns of Dynamax down from my opponent's end, right? So now I bring out Kyogre, I Dynamax Kyogre, Max Lightning to KO their Kyogre ideally, protect Zacian, Yveltal post Dynamax, at best can foul play, maybe Snarl. Yeah. So this was really interesting. But, yeah, I don't know. Like, Dialga feels fairly strong there, but the thing is, it can't really one-shot the Yveltal, and I don't have Max Guard on it, which is, like, the primary concern here. Okay. But the main thing that we have going for us right now is that I've stalled out 2 turns of my opponent's Dynamax, so yeah, now I can Dynamax Lightning into the Kyogre slot, protect with, Zacian. If Kyogre survives here, I'd actually be okay with it. I'm also curious if, like, the Kyogre is Scarfed or if it's just faster than Yveltal here. But, yeah. Like, Dialga looks really good in Team Preview here, and I think if my opponent doesn't lead Yveltal, I'd be a lot more inclined to Dynamax it on turn 1. But if I had just Dynamax on turn 1, I just faint to 2 Max Darknesses, thanks to the special defense drop, right? Most likely. Plus, like, my Dialga's gonna get outsped by, like, the potential Pokemon they have in the back as well. Okay, looks like they're not protecting Kyogre, which is always a good sight. Yep, they just Water Spout again. Totally fine. Against our Dynamax Kyogre, that really shouldn't do too much. Yep. And then a Darkness here. Okay, that makes sense. So, good amount of damage in a Kyogre, but I mean, I don't really have any other option here, right? I guess the other play I could have considered was protecting Kyogre or Max Guarding it even. I wonder if that actually ever works. Max Guard there. Protect, then I can, like, quick attack Kyogre the next turn. But then, like, Water Spout plus Foul Play in Zacian is still so powerful, so I don't really love that. Okay, well, we get a KO here. I assume their last one's going to be Zacian. But let's see. Yeah. Ooh, this is going to be an interesting endgame. Because you can't really one-shot either Pokemon right now, I don't think. I could just attack with both Pokemon here. -1 special defense. But if I protect the right one and they target into it, I'd probably win the game off it. So I'm interested in Max Guard here, plus Play Rough, I think. Or just Geyser and Play Rough here. The thing is, my Zacian just protected, so I could see my opponent aggressively targeting it into it. So I think here I am just going to Geyser and Play Rough. We have bulk to work with on Zacian here as well. Okay, they go for Snarl. I don't... Ooh, that was actually a lot of chip damage. Hold on. That might put both Pokemon in Behemoth Blade KO range. And they did Blade into Zacian. Yep, that makes a ton of sense. I think that's always the right play. And the Snarl did a lot because of the special defense drop, yeah. But we hang on with 6 HP. Beautiful. Okay. So that means I get Play Rough into Yveltal. That should be a KO. Geyser probably doesn't knock out Zacian, but Zacian can't win a 2v1 from this angle. But this was really close, right? It essentially came down to whether or not my Zacian would survive there and whether or not it would connect on Play Rough. So, super scary game. Geyser there. Actually still gets the KO even at -1. Not even a crit. So, they probably just don't have any bulk on it. Just max attack, max speed. So, yeah. Ultimately, like, this game, I wanted to, like, try to play towards Dialga, but yeah, the lead just made it awkward. I think, like, playing against Yveltal, basically my game plan was just to stall out its Dynamax, but I got pinned into a pretty awkward position when I had Whimsicott plus Dialga out next to each other, because I wanted to get Tailwind up, right? Yeah, they were just jolly max, that makes sense. Yep, it was Choice Scarf Kyogre, hence why it outsped Yveltal, Figgy Incineroar. They did actually have Fake Tears here, so I could have gotten wrecked on turn 1 pretty hard if they just went Fake Tears Max Darkness. It was Assault Vest on Yveltal, and then Life Orb on Regieleki. Yeah, this is honestly not the easiest matchup for us, so I'm happy to come out with a win here. Groudon could have been interesting, because if I had Groudon over Kyogre, it would have been a pretty solid Dynamax option, but I guess I would have taken a fair amount of damage still from Water Spout, whereas Kyogre took less damage here. So in the end, you know, I was like coin flipping between Kyogre and Groudon, but Kyogre ended up being super helpful here. I think Groudon could have still been okay, but it would have taken a little bit more damage. Although it would have been able to maybe one-shot everything as well. And they didn't have Foul Play on Yveltal either, which is interesting. So, yeah. Either way, definitely a really scary and a really close first game. Because once again, yeah, like that bulk on Zacian made all the difference. Where if our Zacian faints there, I just lose the game. I needed to survive there. So, yeah. let's keep things going. Okay, next match here, and that is a Mew. I love to see that. I really want to, try out some of the more unique mythical Pokemon. We actually did use Mew a couple of episodes back, and it was really, really fun. But yeah, a lot of the mythicals are just kind of hard to execute, honestly. Mew Entity, Calyrex, Yveltal, Zekrom, Zacian. This feels very much like a Dialga game. I don't even need Tailwind necessarily. Okay, Snarl from there is kind of annoying though. I almost wonder whether or not I actually would rather conserve Dialga for the end game and go with something like Whimsicott plus Groudon. Groudon's fairly strong here with Dialga and Kyogre in the back. Or sorry, Dialga Zacian. Okay, I'm kind of down for this. Basically, the logic is like that last game showed me, like leading Dialga can be kind of tough if your opponent like pressures you with a lot of offense. Also, Dialga really hates going up against Snarl Yveltal, and if it's Assault Vest, Snarl Yveltal, like what I'm worried about is I Tailwind Max Rockfall, it doesn't KO Yveltal, Yveltal just snarls me, and suddenly I'm using -1 Dialga, right, while Dynamaxed. So, they're going to go with Mew and Zekrom, though. Oh, okay. I mean, this is super good for Groudon, I would argue. The question is what Mew has here. Okay. Zekrom's faster than the Groudon here. I mean, Dialga would have been really strong here as a lead, so I'm wondering what their Dialga answer is with this combination. Mew is just a big wild card because I never really know what to expect from it. I think turn 1, I'm kind of down to just double protect, though. See what they want to go for. If they max Wormwind, I have White Herb, so it even gets rid of the attack drop. And I could flex maxing Groudon from this position. And they're going to commit the Dynamax to Zekrom. Like, one thing about using Dialga in Sword and Shield with Dynamax is that it is so powerful as a sweeper, but it's a lot weaker after Dynamax is over. And with the Dialga set that we're using here, like I said, we can't max guard either, right? So, basically, even if I lose a Pokemon and a half in this early game, I actually think it's okay, because I think, like, endgame Dialga is so strong here. But, yeah, I honestly just don't really know what Mew's going to try to go for here on turn 1, so I want to at least respect Fake Out. I was thinking about just Protect plus Precipice Blades, but yeah, let's just play it safe here. Ah, it's coaching though. Okay, that's cool. That is very cool. Okay, so it's probably coaching plus Wormwind or Airstream. Yep. That's okay though, honestly. I also have Charm, so like, I could Charm the Zekrom right now. Like, we're just trying to stall out their Dynamax right now, right? The other alternative is Tailwind Precipice Blades. They could be Weakness Policy. That Wormwind did 34 damage. They could probably go for another Coaching. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm down to Charm and Precipice Blades because this covers for a potential Weakness Policy option. I don't want to Tailwind Precipice Blades and activate a potential policy on Zekrom. I guess it could be Special Zekrom, by the way. But then it kind of, I think, defeats the purpose of, half the purpose of using Coaching. You still get the defense boost, obviously, but... And they go for Airstream this time around. Okay, that works for me. By the way, like, the way I'm playing this is that I'm not Tailwinding yet because I think I can, like, stagger it. And so what's beautiful is that we've gone through 2 turns of Zekrom's Dynamax while not committing Tailwind, right? Which means now in this endgame, I'll most likely be able to get Dialga out in Tailwind while my opponent's Dynamax is essentially over. And that's really favorable. And there it is. It's Weakness Policy, yeah. I called it. Okay. I'm going to Tailwind now because I expect to faint. I could even switch Groudon out into Zacian, expecting max Wormwind here. I actually don't hate that option, honestly. Because, like, I think their options are maybe Airstream Whimsicott again. Like, are you really going to go for something like a Max Quake or a Max Lightning on a Groudon? It feels really unlikely. And if they do, kudos to them. That is just a hard prediction. And even if they knock out both of my Pokemon here, it's honestly fine. Because, like, we have late game Dialga now. What would be nasty here is Mew going for, like, a Trick Room. And they just keep coaching. Cool. I'm fine with this, right? Like, I don't really care about you getting defense boosts when I have a Dialga just waiting in the back. And they Airstream again. Okay, totally works for me. Beautiful. In the end, like, what was Dynamax Zekrom able to accomplish? It did 30% to Groudon and KO'd Whimsicott, right? And got 2 speed boosts on both Pokemon, but I don't think the speed boosts are really that critical. So now I just get Dialga in. I think the one thing we just want to think about a little bit here is now how can my opponent stall out Dialga's Dynamax fully? Protect is one answer, obviously, and switching is the other answer. Protecting is even fine because right now the Zacian is applying a lot of pressure. The main thing is that, like, they do have a Zacian in the back, right? So, like, I think I want to Max Quake here instead of Wormwinding. I guess Zekrom then could switch into Yveltal, but then you have an Yveltal out against my two Pokemon, which I don't think is super favorable. So I'm just going to Blade into Mewtwo and Quake into Zekrom here. They're not switching. This should put us into an amazing position. So, you know, I'm kind of glad to have this game in contrast to the previous one, because in the last game, like, I just lost Dialga immediately, but it was, like, I didn't feel comfortable Dynamaxing it, and for good reason, right? Whereas in this game, like, the last game could have been interesting if I staggered my Dialga and I led, like, Whimsicott plus Whimsicott plus Zacian instead. Alright, they go for another coaching here onto Zekrom. Mew also critically outspeeding the Zacian, so Choice Scarf maybe? I should have maybe contemplated protecting Zacian there, actually. Because in not doing so, I might feint to something like a Bolt Strike. But even if that's the case, then it's my Dialga plus Groudon or Tailwind against them. So I don't even think it's that bad, truthfully. But late game Zacian would have been really strong here into their team. It is pretty satisfying to see Zacian get one shot here, even though it's my Zacian by a Zekrom of all Pokemon. I think that's really cool. Okay, we get Max Quake off here. Like, in the end, it's tough for my opponent because the Mew's not exerting any offensive pressure, right? So it's like, okay, your Zekrom threatens one of my two Pokemon. Yeah, I can do a lot to the Dialga, maybe just, you know, KO the Zacian, which it was able to accomplish. But in the end, like, I think this trade is great for me, right? Like, I have Tailwind. I still have 2 turns of Dynamax left on Dialga. I've got a special defense boost and Expert Belt on it, so we should be in really good shape. Groudon always just scary in the endgame because, of course, I can miss my attacks. They bring out Yveltal. That's fine. Zacian as their last one would make sense. Yeah, cool. Okay, given this, given that we have our Tailwind up right now, my only question is, does, like, Max Wormwind plus Fire Punch KO Yveltal? Like, I want to drop the Zacian's attack here, and I have Stone Edge. Assault Vest on Yveltal seems fairly likely. We know it's not weakness policy. So I'm not a double up onto Yveltal. Even if it doesn't KO, I think it's fine. Also, it's like, does Zacian feel comfortable attacking here? Yeah, they protect. Although I was thinking in retrospect, it may have been better to have gone for Quake plus Fire Punch onto Zacian anyway. Just to bait out the protect. Because, like, if they had attacked there and crit me, it could have been pretty bad. But yeah, now we just win the game. So this is the power of late game Dialga, and yeah, I always like having different games with, like, one of the key Pokemon on the team, like, highlight the different scenarios it can be put in, because in the first game, like, it didn't feel like Dialga accomplished very much, right? But I think if anything, even just having Dialga out, like, kind of baited them to Dynamax Yveltal, which is pretty critical, right? Because then we were able to stall out their Dynamax. So, like, one thing we've been doing today is just, yeah, playing towards endgame Dynamaxes and stalling out our opponent's maxes. So now we can just Quake and Fire Punch here. I was going to say, is there any way they could ever win here? Like, they'd have to go for a double protect, but even if they get the double, they're never winning 2v1, I think. I was, like, debating the merit of getting another defense boost via Max Steel Spike. Well, that's actually pretty interesting. But I don't think it matters because we had so much HP to work with on both Pokemon there. So, yeah, that was a really solid Dialga game. Let's look for another. That's a Salamence. I haven't seen that since we used that really wild Salamence team with Dialga and Eternatus. I got top 4 at Japanese Nationals. So that's really cool to see. As well as a Reshiram, which I feel like has had very little representation in this format. Once again, I think this is an amazing game for Dialga. So I'm very happy to, yeah, try to bring it out here. Whimsicott, Dialga, Zacian. This trio is just so good, honestly. And then the classic debate of, do I want Kyogre, Groudon, or Yveltal? Yveltal's a little bit interesting here since they have Calyrex, but I don't love it. Groudon could get hit by Will-O-Wisp, which is my primary concern from Calyrex Shadow Rider. Calyrex could Snarl me as well, which is a little bit obnoxious. White Herb is interesting because they could be baited into bringing Salamence. I mean, would you really bring Mence, though, into a matchup with Dialga Zacian and Whimsicott? I don't know. If I were in their shoes, I would probably go like Whimsicott, Calyrex, Kyogre Zacian. To which then Groudon's fairly strong to that, I guess. I think like the main awkward thing in using Tailwind plus Dialga is when you go up against opposing Tailwind, which is very common in this format. And then they have ways to like scare Dialga early. Because the thing is, if the opposing team does not have Tailwind, I guess then they're either, you know, like the Trick Room is then the other thing I'd be worried about. But basically like, okay, they're going to go Whimsicott and Reshiram here. Okay. That is interesting. I mean, I'm okay with this. But our Dialga is slower once again. Huh. What do I want to do? Like, it makes sense for them to Tailwind and then Max Quake into the Dialga slot, right? If I KO Whimsicott, what would they bring out? Kyogre, Zacian, Calyrex likely. Once again, Fake Tears is my concern from their end. Moonblast. Maybe I do just Tailwind here. This is a little bit awkward. Basically, like, I thought about staggering my Tailwind here. They're going to Dynamax. Why didn't I stagger my Tailwind here? Mainly because I was worried about like them doubling up onto my Whimsicott, but then even if they do that, it doesn't... Well, I would at least have Tailwind up, so then I could bring out Zacian actually, and then Behemoth Blade, Reshiram, which would actually be really strong. Yeah. I think if I were my opponent's shoes, I would probably click Tailwind plus Max Quake into Dialga, although that's a little bit risky, because if I'm Weakness Policy Dialga, you are really done for there, right? Because then I would just retaliate back with the Wormwind. But when I see Reshiram, I normally almost always expect Assault Vest on it. But you can see how Dialga is, you know, one of the primary stars of this team, right? The last game was amazing for it, and here we're just Dynamaxing it immediately. They actually go for Helping Hand. I think that is going to put my opponent actually in a really tough spot if... Well, I don't think Wormwind KOs here, even with base 150 Expert Belt, because they should be Assault Vest. But if they're not Assault Vest here, the game is over, I would think. Is that AV? Maybe they're just bulking up to survive without AV? I honestly don't know my Expert Belt Dialga damage calcs in a Reshiram. I want to say it's AV still, but... Cool, and they Max Quake. Yeah, I'll take that trade any day, because that's not going to KO us here. That was really close. I really didn't think it'd be that close in terms of HP. Wow. Okay. Yeah, they're not Assault Vest. Okay, that makes sense. Ooh, you do get a special defense boost, so I'm not quite sure I KO you with the Moonblast here. Now you can just Tailwind. I don't have Taunt, unfortunately. But I have Charm, which I can use for the endgame. So I'm down to Moonblast Reshiram here. And Quake it. Maybe they Max Guard here, but that's fine. Yeah, they just go for their own Tailwind. Basically, the idea is if I Moonblast it, then the Reshiram, even if it survives, should faint from Life Orb damage, which is pretty nice. Yep, it will survive. And they go for Max Flare here. Into Whimsicott, actually. Okay, that works. Makes sense. Now they have staggered their Tailwind by a turn, so I'm curious how bulky Reshiram has to be to guarantee surviving. Yeah, an attack from the Dialga Max Wormwind. Because it was Expert Belt base 150. Yeah, this would have been nicer to go for like Steel Spike, I suppose. But I was gonna say Whimsicott should be Sash, but there's no guarantee of that. I think where this game gets really scary now is if they have Calyrex in the back. I didn't do a great job of playing around late game Calyrex, I think. Because I didn't bring Yveltal in this matchup. If it's Calyrex in the back, okay, they bring out Zacian, which is much better to see. I was going to say, if it's Calyrex, I'm in super bad shape in my opinion. I'm still not in the best position here, truthfully. It's so awkward, like... I can't believe how much Helping Hand Quake did, honestly. But if I had Quaked, it wouldn't have made much of a difference there, right? So I have 2 turns of Tailwind. The key thing here is I have Charm, so I can weaken the Zacian pretty substantially. They might have Quick Attack. I also don't hate the idea of protecting here and then Charming next turn. Yeah, I think I'm down for that. I don't think I ever get an attack off with Dialga here. That would be a major oversight on their end, but... By protecting, I can also switch Whimsicott out and then set up Tailwind again. So they just Moonblasted into us. Yep. And Sacred Sword into us. Yeah, that's fine. Oh, but I have to respect Helping Hand Behemoth Blade now, right? That I do. Huh. So I could bring out Groudon here. You know, I have Precipice Blade's Fire Punch pressure, or I could bring out my Zacian. Oh, this turn is really interesting because it's like, if I were them, I would consider Helping Hand Behemoth Blading into Zacian, but I have a really nice counterplay to that, which is Charm their Zacian to survive that, Behemoth Blade their Whimsicott to KO them, and then I set up Tailwind again the subsequent turn. I'm kind of down for this. Otherwise, they would what? Moonblast my Whimsicott, Behemoth Blade into my Zacian. That would be fine. I bring out Groudon, double protect, stall out your Dynamax. You're playing it with -1 attack Zacian then. So I think Charm is really strong here. But I have to worry about like Taunt and Encore from Whimsicott as well. And then losing a potential speed tie. So we'll see. I think if there's any game where Charm can be huge, it's here. And it would be game-changing if they go for the Helping Hand Behemoth Blade play onto Zacian. And I think a lot of players would do that, right? Because you see the KO in front of you and you want to take it. And that makes total sense. But they actually just protect. Okay, so they're going to protect and probably just KO the Whimsicott with the Moonblast, I would expect. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So, like, what could have been interesting there was switching my Whimsicott out into Groudon, because then I have staggered, or not staggered, but, like, I'll be able to bring Whimsicott back out and set up another Tailwind. But I like the idea. Like, in the end, this trade, I think, is okay for us. The only awkward thing is now my opponent has one extra turn of Tailwind. And, like, it's very likely I'm going to be slower than my opponent here with my Pokemon. So let's see what they have in the fourth. It's Kyogre. Okay, so this is huge because it means I win the Weather War at least, right? So that in itself is pretty big. So I think what I do this next turn is simply just double protect to try to see what item you have. Like, I want to see whether or not it's Choice Scarf on Kyogre. Because if it's Choice Scarf, that's a really big deal, right? But either way, I'm just going to double protect. This is where if I had Kyogre in the back instead of Groudon, I actually would have lost the game, I think. But yeah, is there any other play to go for? Last turn of Tailwind. Zacian did just protect, but yeah, I like the idea of stalling out their Tailwind right now. Get some sense of the speed between Kyogre and Zacian as well. I mean, I could have just attacked here, right? Like, I could have played, like, Behemoth Blade their Zacian and just protect Groudon. That's a possibility. Okay, Kyogre does not appear to be Scarfed, so that's good information. They went for Blade plus Ice Beam into Groudon. Yeah, this could still be a problem for me, right? Because I don't expect to survive Blade plus Ice Beam. I probably lose this if Blade Ice Beam KOs and I don't one-shot one of their Pokemon. I don't really expect to get a one-shot onto either Pokemon here, truthfully. But I'll play rough Kyogre, I think. I'm also curious, like, the Zacian speed interaction here. They protect the... Oh, it must be a double protect, right? Oh. And I'm faster with Groudon. That is the best surprise I could have gotten. Wow, I was like, yeah, you just Behemoth Blade Ice Beam my Groudon here. But since we had the faster Groudon here, we were actually always fine anyway. But that's so funny. You can see how my opponent's Tailwind worked against them because they essentially won the Weather War. Now I can just Fire Punch. They lost the Weather War because they had that final extra turn of Tailwind. But my Groudon was actually faster, so if they didn't have Tailwind there, they would have won the Weather War and most likely... Well, I was going to say win the game, but then play rough and Precipice Blade still KOs you. So, yeah. We'll definitely take it. overall, yeah, I mean, I'm fairly content with all the games that we had today, obviously, like, getting wins in all of them, but they were fairly close, and, like, I don't think I maximized the value of Dialga, but you're not always going to be able to play towards one Pokemon, right? That's the importance of having flexibility in any good team. And so, yeah, this game was definitely interesting, where in the early game, like, Dialga was able to get a ton of damage on a Reshiram, but we just fell short of a KO. Like, if the Whirlwind plus Moonblast KOs, that would have been really sweet. I also think that if my opponent had brought Calyrex Shadow Rider over Zacian in this one, I would have been in a really, really tough spot, because it could just Astral Barrage everything. So, yeah. Anyway, that is a fun way to kick off the season, and the Mew Zekrom team in particular was really cool to fight again. So, yeah, thank you so much as always for watching, and yeah, check out the team in the description below. Leave a like if you enjoy. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, and I'll see you all soon. All right, peace.